because of my moving around.
Man, John. So from Utah to John Muir, then John Muir to Inglewood.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's an interesting period. We were at John Muir when we heard that the Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor. So
There.
that was quite a day. And then we got in the car and rode down to the beach and was trying to tell everybody that we were at war, that the Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor, and nobody would believe us. Because at that time we were a peaceful nation over here.
Oh, that's what we thought, huh?
Yeah, 1941. We'd only moved here in April of the year.
Uh-huh.
The war broke out in December of that same year. So we hadn't been here very long. Dad had had a hard time finding work. Some Eastern company bought
Lowe's, yeah.
hardware store and fired everybody there, including Dad. And so he went all over Wyoming, Idaho, Utah, different surrounding states trying to find work. And he couldn't find any, so he came alone down to Los Angeles. And that's where he got a temporary job designing a catalog for a hardware place. And then he went down to North America, and then when he made out his application to be an inspector of the things they were making, the guy looked at his application form, and if you know Dad's writing and such, it's so neat and precise and everything, he says, "You don't want to do that. You want to be a tool engineer, tool designer." And so he hired in that department, and he was there until he retired. He became practically the head of the department before he retired.
Mm-hmm.
But
You said he taught at UCLA also?
yeah, he taught at UCLA and Pepperdine.
Hmm.
I think he taught at USC
Mm-hmm.
a little bit too. I've often wished that when I was in high school and taking algebra, or not, algebra and trig and those things, that I'd gone to my dad for help because I was struggling in it. And he knew that thing cold and was teaching it to men that worked at these aircraft factories at night school. And he was very sharp at it. But I always regretted that I never went to my dad to get a little extra help on my math when I was in school. I would have done a heck of a lot better.
So why didn't you? I mean, what was...
Pride, probably.
Yeah. Oh, that.
My dad was a very sharp man. He was very smart. And it always amazed me the stuff he built for those Christmas displays in the hardware store. People would come from all the surrounding cities to see those displays where he had ongoing merry-go-rounds and Ferris wheels with dolls in them, and said he had a whole toy shop he built and designed and set up there where it was building different toys, and he was really amazing. But at Christmas time, people would come from all over. They're all surrounding. He said there was nothing else like it anywhere. There wasn't anything in Salt Lake or Brigham or Provo. But people would hear about this. The whole big front window of the store, he had a big display going. And then the basement was never used except at Christmas time, and then it became a toy haven. And it was really something. And people came from forever to that place. But it was all due to him. He designed and built and constructed the whole thing. I remember going up in the third story. His office was up in the third floor, and that's where he built all that stuff too. And it was interesting to go visit. I can still visualize that up there.
I've seen some of the photos of the basements he did. But
Oh yeah, yeah. He was very capable and smart. And, he actually, while he was working at North American, ended up with a mechanical engineering degree, and not just the degree like you get from the school, but the one they pay for, the official degree. I can't think of what you call it.
a master's or what? Or bachelor's?
No, but anyway, I never did get it in chemical engineering, but he got it in mechanical engineering.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I took the test one, but I didn't pass it, so I never became a registered chemical engineer.
Uh-huh.
If I had,
Oh, you mean a
then I
professional
could have,
license?
Gone to court and been used officially. But as it was, I never did pass that crazy test once I got out of school. But he took the mechanical one and did pass.
So it was like a license or a certification?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, so he could go to court and give his testimony and things officially, where I couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, he always amazed me. He was so smart and so clever and so built so many interesting things in his life. Christmas in Ogden usually centered at Lowe's, where he worked.
Wow.
There was no place in Salt Lake or Brigham or Provo or anywhere around that could match it. Yeah, that was a fun time. Even they never used basement except at Christmas time. And then there's a great big wide stairway that went from the main floor down the basement. And he always decorated that differently every year, but it was just that entranceway was an amazing thing. I can still see the display once you got down there and turned to your right. His merry-go-rounds going and his Ferris wheels, and he had a whole deal set up there. It was amazing. Yeah, people would really come for a long ways around because the word would spread, and then of course from year to year they knew it would be there. Every year he had an amazing display. Actually, he was a display guy for Lowe's and their satellite Broadway stores. He made all their signs that put on the different places in the store telling how much this was and how much that was and all those kind of things. And he wrote the articles for the newspapers for advertising. He was really their advertising guy. And then he also would the manager reliever at these George A. Lowe Company had these little satellites in all the different cities, like Salt Lake and Provo and all over up in Montana and Wyoming. All summer long we would travel and spend about 3 weeks at each of these little satellite places while Dad would redo them and train the managers and all that kind of stuff. And so every summer we got to travel all over that part of the country, and I really enjoyed that. We'd swim in the rivers while he was at work, and after he'd get home from work. I remember, I don't know if you are aware of the Snake River up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It goes from Wyoming clear on down to the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
But It's an awful big river between Burley and what's that other name? And there's two twin cities, one on each side of the river. And the river is a wide river with a big bridge over it. And one day he swam across that river, and it's a pretty swift river. And as good a swimmer as he was, he went downstream a long ways before he finally got across. He was just about worn out. That's where I learned to swim. Well, no, it was the Ogden River I learned to swim in. I took swimming lessons at the college near us in Ogden, but I didn't learn a thing. I got a pink eye out of it. And that's the only thing I got out of those lessons. But then as kids would go down to the Ogden River and play around, and that's where I learned how to swim on my own. But the river Dad was swimming across, that Snake River, that's nothing like the Ogden River. Ogden River may be 100 feet across. Snake River probably a couple blocks across. And it's swift and it's a big river. I was amazed that he tried to swim across, but he was really worn out when he got on the other side. But I was glad he made it.
Wow. Yeah, how did he get back? If he's that tired when he gets there.
I don't remember whether he finally got enough strength to walk back, or we took the car over, or I just don't really remember.
That's what I was wondering. He's so tired when he gets over there. So then he looks back at you guys and says, now what do I do?
That same river, Dad would throw us off sort of a boat dock area there in the river. We didn't know how to swim. But he was trying to get us to learn how to swim.
Well, that's a motivation.
I think he probably ended up having to pull us floundering kids out.
Probably.
I finally taught myself to swim in the Ogden River when us kids would go down to the Ogden River and fool around.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally got the idea how to really swim. So I was self-taught. When all I got out of my official lessons at the college was a pink eye. And was in bed for a while.
Wow.
Yeah, those were interesting days. Up above that Ogden River, where we lived, land goes level until you get toward the Ogden River, and then there's about 100-foot decline. And just before that, there's a great big cemetery, and a big section of it right there was Oriental. And we used to go there to get what was left of the, what do you call those sticks you light and burn?
Flares?
Huh?
Flares?
Not flares, but it's very small, thin.
Oh, kindling?
Hmm?
Kindling? You mean to start a fire?
No. We sort of use them nowadays to light fireworks with.
Oh, punks?
Punks.
Yeah.
They had a lot of those there, and leftover fireworks they put on their graves in these Oriental sections.
That's incense. Those aren't punks.
We would gather those up and play with them.
No, that's incense. It's like when the Catholics light a candle. You know.
Yeah, there was a lot of it there in that area. We used to play with it a lot.
They probably would have thought that was disrespectful. Oh man.
That was that same area where they had that big rodeo every summer around
Uh-huh.
24th. It lasted a whole week, every night for a whole week. They had this big rodeo. It was the biggest rodeo in the nation at the time. Yeah, there were the same guys that would travel all over the nation, but the one in Ogden was supposed to have been the biggest deal. And Dad was very involved with that. He made all the big signs, and both for the parade route and where the rodeo was, and such that every year he was deeply involved with that rodeo. Of course, I enjoyed going to him and watching the bucking horses and the steers that try to lasso and also wrestle down. And yeah, that was a yearly thing for about a week. You'd have that big rodeo. It was a national group, but they always claimed that Ogden was the biggest and best rodeo of the whole nation at that time. I certainly enjoyed them.
I remember going to the rodeo at the Utah State Fair back in the 90s with the kids, but yeah. I need to head off over to the office now.